So what you find in many classical traditions is that they will talk about different levels of creation. So there's the physical level, there's the etheric life energy level, that in China would be called qi, or in Japan would be called ki, or in India would be called prana. The Greeks would call it the ether. So this etheric vital force energy is above that of the physical. Then there are consciousness levels, beginning with what we call in the West the astral level. Well, with all these different levels, we have to understand a progression that is taking place in modern science. And to do that, I think it's very helpful to review a particular concept coming from Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner mentioned at one time that people don't properly understand what electromagnetic energy is, because time and time again in subtle energy research in modern times, things dealing with etheric life force, with qi, we try to get validity from modern science by saying the vital life force is electromagnetic. But in fact, according to Steiner, electromagnetic energy is not the vital life force. If it was, you could plug the base of your spine into an electrical outlet and get charged up. But it doesn't work that way. In fact, there's a vibrational component in electromagnetic energy that is extremely toxic. And that's why people get electrosensitivity and have detrimental effects from electrical fields. So what he mentions is that what the vital life force is, that's above the level of the physical, in every classical tradition, they understood that this vital life force is what went into the physical and animated it. It's the animating power. So when we understand that, we'll understand that when that power has animated the physical body, that animation process creates resistance passing through the conductor of the human body, passing through the conductor of physical materials, and that means that this faster than light energy slows way down. And this particular energy from the ether begins to decay. The decay of the etheric energy, of the vital force energy, is what we call electromagnetic energy. That's why Nikola Tesla, in his work, said, well, today in technology, we worked with retarded Hertzian waves that are slower than light. But Tesla, in the 1890s, said there's another type of wave, scalar waves, that are faster than light. And that's the real thing behind the electromagnetic energy. So for what I'm about to describe to you, the concept is then that our electromagnetic energy is in fact decayed life force. It's the decayed vital energy that animates living beings, but it became a shadow substance in electromagnetic energy. Now it becomes gross enough, it becomes dense enough that we can use it to do things like turn a physical motor and create our modern technology. Hard to do that with the ether. You can animate a living being. And it's said that some traditions have been able to harness the ether to be able to turn motors. And there's a lot of work going on in this field today in things like the Tesla Society. But that gross level of the energy and electromagnetic energy is what we use in modern technology. But here's the problem, that when we have the mastery of the electromagnetic spectrum and of the spectrum of matter, the periodic table, all of our technology today is based on how we stick this electromagnetic energy into specific pieces of physical matter, into silicon doped with germanium or whatever it might be, to hold a specific frequency. But what they ignore is what about the next level up? Because after the electromagnetic, which Steiner would call sub-nature or sub-physical, and then the physical level, then you have the vital life force. We should be aware that every major spiritual tradition on the planet, every traditional culture until about 300 years ago, all over the world, always focus their healing on the vital life force. That's true in every culture. It's only a very modern development to focus only on the physical body and claim there is no vital life force. So since we looked at only the sub-physical and the physical for our modern technology, there was absolutely zero consideration given to the fact that these types of vibrations created by this technology are going to affect the vital life force level. So that vital life force level has got to come in to a new, more expanded scientific form of understanding. And again, we tend to try to understand it today through the number prism of the 3 gunas in Ayurveda, through the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, etc. But again, we can expand that into a spectrum that would include all of this phenomena together. So the discovery of this vibrational spectrum of all the subtle energies that are too subtle to be picked up by electromagnetic equipment began to take place in the 1930s in France. One of the major researchers was a radio wave engineer named Louis Turin. And Louis Turin had studied French radiesthesia, the method of being able to pick up subtle vibrations through the use of particular types of pendulums or other tools. In this work, they don't ask any mental questions. They don't program the pendulum mentally ahead of time for movement. Rather, the pendulums have particular types of angles or shapes built into them that resonate with a particular vibrational force, or they can be tuned to a series of different vibrations. Then, through the movement of the pendulum or other type of measurement tool, you'll then be able to perceive simply the presence or the absence of an invisible vibration that most people cannot perceive. Some people who are very sensitive energy healers or psychics may be able to perceive some of these energies. But what the tool allows you to do is then to pick up that vibratory force coming from any person, place, or thing. So with the work of Louis Turin as a radio wave engineer, he understood that there are all types of waves that are passing through us all the time that you'll have no idea even exist unless you have a tool to be able to detect it. So he knew from radio wave technology, radio waves are passing through things all the time. You don't know they're there until you use a crystal and you tune the crystal to pick up the broadcast. So as far as I'm concerned, this was a gigantic development in subtle energy work, to be able to differentiate the complete spectrum of all subtle energies into 12 parts. This is what we call quality scales or pigment as a color. It can manifest in the scale of sound as a tone. It can manifest in the scale of shape as a particular geometric form. So these archetypal vibrational powers can manifest in different qualities, but they referred to them in the French work through the names of colors because that was something people could directly relate to. So here, by testing the vibrations within the system, they could test water quality, for example, and the different bands of vibration that they had in their vibrational spectrum that they identified would allow them to find out if it contained various types of harmful pathogens or if it was drinkable, and what type of pathogens there are. There would be different vibrational waves for dangerous chemicals than if there were dangerous bacteria, for example. It also allowed them then to detect what is the subtle vibration coming from different disease states, and what then would be the vibration that would then counteract or neutralize that particular wave. So this was referred to as the ray of illness and the curative ray. And so here you see the way that he's characterizing different illnesses and the wave that destroys the pathogen according to the different bands of the spectrum. So just as we have an electromagnetic spectrum, so we have a spectrum of these subtle radiations. And so when we talk about these different bands, I just want to give you a couple of quick examples. Let's say we use the orange band described by the French. The orange band could be found in natural substances and things like frankincense. Frankincense oil is full of the orange band. It doesn't look orange, but that's not the point of it. The vibrational quality is that of the orange band. You'd have to be able to test it to know that. But what does the orange band do? It stimulates the lungs, it clears the kidney and bladder. In fact, it is the orange band vibration that allows you to urinate and defecate. Just before a person urinates or defecates, their bladder or their colon will fill with the orange vibration, and that then leads to the purging effect. So one of the powers of orange is to purge energies. Energizes the thyroid, relieves muscle cramps and spasms, etc. At an energetic level, it purges, loosens, eliminates, cleanses, and it can also have even an explosive type of action to it. But at the emotional mental level, it promotes joy, happiness. It overcomes depression, discontent, fear. So when they would use frankincense, they knew in the ancient traditions that when you applied it to a person's third eye center or to their crown, it would force a purging of the energy out of these centers, and then that center could then become active. But there's another vibration that is hidden inside of frankincense. In addition to the orange band vibration, there's also the gold vibration, which we'll talk about in just a moment. The gold vibration actually allows the spiritual potential, the seed that's inside the energy centers, to begin to ripen and come forward. So at this point, the French, in identifying the universal vibrational spectrum, were then able to understand the functional effects of all of these things. Now the thing is that in the original French works, they did not clearly describe, though, what the functions at all of these different levels were of all of the colors. Now, the most mysterious of the vibrations is what they call negative green. It's directly opposite the positive green energy quality here. That's what we think of as green. Opposite it is an invisible wave, almost never visible. If it was to be visible in light, it would appear as gray. But for most of the time, it never actually appears